Yeah.
Yeah.
To Margot's feet.
I hadn't.
Margot's feet.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Hannah with CinemaBlend, slating immediately.
Would you like?
Oh my god. Yes, can I wear these?
Welcome to Barbie Land.
We would love it if you did.
This is the first room I've been in. So.
Oh, really? I mean, the hallway itself is pretty impressive.
Wow.
This gives you a small snapshot at what it was like to be us every day on set.
I feel immediately better.
Right?
Just right now.
Oh yeah.
I feel great.
Life's a beach.
So I have a weird experience. I took my dad to see the movie last night.
Oh, wow.
And he was
What a
so
dad thing.
Yeah.
moved. He was more moved than I was. Ken made him cry.
What?
Ken made him cry. I look over and I'm almost kind of like, trying to process the ending, and I just see like tears running down his face, and I was like, I don't know if this is the intention of what they thought they were going to do, because right now, like, Kenergy and like you don't want to be a Ken, like that's kind of
No,
the
you
vibe.
do want to be a
Well,
Ken.
so that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Do we have it all wrong on the internet? Like you want, like, how do you want
Absolutely.
people to leave the theater feeling about Ken?
Like, you.
Yeah, there were some
you
Bitcoin
want-
Ken comments that I think are
Well, listen.
clouding the issue. Would you like to clear that up?
You want a Ken in your life. If you're not a Ken, you want a Ken around, because they're the greatest. They support you. And this movie, I mean, Ken really evolves in this movie past the place of just being a wonderful accessory to Barbie, which, to be fair, he was kind of invented to be something that was included in Barbie's life the way her material items were.
Best job in the world.
And he evolves, and I think it's if you want to get deep in the Barbie movie, like your dad clearly was open to that, it's about kind of evolving as yourself and knowing that you are enough.
Oh my gosh, it's hard to follow that. But Ryan, what are your thoughts? Not even gonna try.
Welcome to the experience. It's been Mike, and I'm just Ken.
I just don't know who I am without you.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken.
But yeah, I just thought that was really cool because I was like, oh my gosh, that is not what I was expecting to get from this movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things like that, I think, in the film. I think after I first read it, I was like, I started just seeing, it's like when you buy a Ford Focus and then all you see is Ford Focuses on the road. Am I wrong?
It's so true.
Am I wrong?
No, I think, by the way, it is a valid point, because I think as much as this is like, there's moments where you get a great monologue where it's like what it's like to be a woman today and what it's like, to be a mom and all that kind of stuff. It's also, I don't know, I think we are in this time where guys are like, okay, what's my place right now?
Yeah.
Like, 'cause, like, I'm a dude and I'm trying to be an ally, but I'm trying to allow space and I'm trying to listen, but I'm also trying to be there. And like, I think Ken's journey is kind of informative.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I am so sorry to ask you this, but this is a little silly.
Don't. You don't have to.
I do.
I'm scared
unfortunately.
already.
We'll say you did.
Something I was not aware of until the trailer dropped and we got the iconic shot of the arched foot was that the people on the internet are really into your feet.
Yes.
From Wolf of Wall Street all the way through to obviously Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Suicide Squad, now Barbie. Is
I'm
this
learning so much about you.
that you're like aware of, and when you're filming these shots, are you like,
Yeah.
oh, here's one that they're gonna...
I'll tell you, the very first time I Googled myself, you know how when you type something into Google and it predicts what the rest of it's gonna be? I was like, I'd started working and I was on some things and I hadn't Googled myself before. And so I wrote in Margot Robbie, and before I finished writing Robbie, Margot Robbie feet came up. And I was like, Margot Robbie feet? That's weird. And I clicked on it and realized that there was, like pictures zoomed in on my feet and people writing about, and like someone had made a video compilation of footage of my feet. And I was like, oh, wow, this is like a thing I didn't realize. And then since then I've, been lucky to be in some iconic films, but there's been some, shots of my feet, which I think has only encouraged this notion. And I have to say, I'm really flattered that people are excited about my feet. I think that's lovely. I am, genuinely. I don't feel weird about it. I am actually like, well, that's nice.
It's a nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Please don't
To
look at my
Margot's
feet.
feet.
I hadn't did
Margot's feet. I will.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's a big moment.
I feel like when you were doing Little Women press too.
I
wasn't
just
that,
had a baby.
midget? Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, how is she
I
doing
know.
this?
it's just there's always a baby.
Yeah. Okay, so I have kind of an interesting experience. I loved the movie. You have such a great way of balancing making things really deep and profound and smart, and you learn things, but then also it's really fun and beautiful. And I took my dad with me to the press screening, yes. And I look over at the end and he's just like, there's tears just like streaming down his face. And I was like,
that's gonna make me tear up.
Oh my God. Because I really, I mean, I knew I was like, expect the unexpected with this movie, but that was really not on my list at all.
That makes me so happy.
We had like a really like profound conversation after on the car ride home. And like he was talking about realizations that Ken had and like Barbie's empathy that like really kind of got to him. And I was like, this is so interesting because like when we talk about, you know, Kens and like Kenergy right now, it's kind of like you don't want to be that.
Yeah.
But like leaving the theater, I'm like, oh, but that clearly
but it is.
Yeah. So tell me that.
No, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like I wanted this movie to be a hug for people where they were. And I think, you know, I mean, not to be sort of... to give away the whole thing, but like, you know, where Ken starts out at the beginning of the movie is Ken is like an afterthought and he's an accessory and she doesn't really think about him. She's not mean, she just doesn't consider him. And that's like pretty unsustainable. And I think in the way that Ryan plays it, he's so funny, but he plays it from such a deep place inside of him that you really feel for Ken. And I think that is like, her journey and his journey and where they come to with each other by the end, that, you know, they each evolve in their own way, and that Barbie Land improves because it becomes a more egalitarian place. I think it's like I want to be speaking to men and women. I don't just want it to be one thing, and I think I'm glad your dad felt that way. That's the point. And I think Kenergy, Ryan and I have a thing where we text each other because I think Kenergy is actually really positive, especially when it's like self-actualized Kenergy at the end. Yes, that's amazing Kenergy. That's like what we all want to be going to, is like amazing self-actualized Kenergy. Yes, which women can have Kenergy too. It's not just a man thing.
Yes, I totally agree. Really quickly before I run out of time, Saoirse Ronan was supposed to be in the movie. That would have been so great, especially because like the themes that are in this, it's like with Little Women and Lady Bird kind of. I know. Can you say anything about where you were kind of envisioning incorporating her?
Well, it was always going to have to be like a sort of smaller thing because she was actually producing at the time, which I'm so proud of her for, and of course it's brilliant. But it was going to be a specialty cameo. I was also going to do a specialty cameo with Timmy. And both of them couldn't do it, and I was so annoyed.
I would rather be dead.
But I love them so much. But it felt like doing something without my children. I mean, I'm not their mom, but I sort of feel like their mom.
So is that why you didn't put yourself in it? It's just because you didn't want to do it without them kind of thing?
Oh, no, I can never be in my movies. That would be, my head would explode. I couldn't handle it.
You have to want to know, okay? Do it again.
Not that it's a competition, but like,
isn't
win.
it?
Right. We'll have about 4 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Hannah Solik from CinemaBlend. Hi. Which is your favorite Barbie? You've been staring at them all day.
I was looking. I love gown Barbie over there, and I also love this one in the pink, like pencil skirt suit.
Love it.
I would wear any and all of these outfits.
Yeah. Mermaid Barbie, love it. Another thing I love is the pep talk that you give Barbie in this movie. And I was curious, did you kind of like collaborate with Greta on that at all or give any input on what you wanted to say?
It was fully written when I first read the script. I mean, Greta and I talked about it and we tweaked things here and there and we sort of, you know, made sure that the message was coming through with just like word changes. And I mean, you know, it was like such a long conversation. It was a conversation of like months but it was really like, it was there. It was written in the version that I first read.
I brought my dad to the press screening. He loved it, and he was honestly more moved than I was, which was very shocking because this is like very much my kind of movie. And I look over at the end and he's just like full tears down, and like he said something to me afterwards, like particularly about that sort of pep talk speech. He was like, yeah, you know, I never really like realized when you put it in that terms, like all these different things that you guys are probably always dealing with. And I was like, oh my God, Dad. And he was like moved by Ken. He was crying. And I'm like,
he was crying for Ken?
Yes, I know. And I'm like, so I'm like sitting there and I'm like so distracted by this at the end of the movie that I've kind of started like rethinking Kenergy, because like it's kind of a joke right now on the internet, you know, like you don't want to be a Ken or like whatever.
No, you totally want to be a Ken. We need more Kens. I mean, we need Ken by the end. We need like liberated Kens.
Yes.
We need like, you know, it's about like all of us getting to be all the things that we are.
Yes, I totally agree, but I just thought that was...
I love that. I love that your dad loved
And he
it.
was just so moved particularly by you, so I told him I'll tell him that.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Before I run out of time, I'm a huge How to Train Your Dragon fan, like as a fully grown adult when I watched the movies. Do you have any thoughts on the live action casting for Astrid?
Yes. I love who they cast. I think it's fantastic. Dean and I have been texting back and forth, and he's sending me, you know, little snippets of what's going on. I'm so excited for the live action version. No.
No?
No. But I can't wait for it to like get the live action treatment. And also I think Dean is like just one of the most incredibly talented storytellers I've ever gotten to work with. So I'm so excited to see what he does with it.
Come into my weird house. Hi, I'm Weird Barbie. I am in the splits. I have a funky haircut and I smell like basement.
Yeah, but tell the truth, you didn't have that much fun in there, right?
Anyway, I'm Hannah Solig from CinemaBlend. So I was not expecting to talk about this, but I took my dad to the screening last night, which was really special.
Oh, I love
He
that.
was moved more than I was, which was very shocking to me. I looked over at the end and he's just got like tears.
Oh, what a wonderful man.
I know, he's never gonna see this interview because he will not be happy that I'm telling people this, but it got me, a large part of why he told me later was because of Ken and some of the realizations that he had. And at first I was like, Dad. But then I started thinking about it, and it's interesting because right now, at least on the internet, you know, Ken is so, like, you don't want to be a Ken. But by the end of this movie, I'm like, do you want to be a Ken? Like, do we want to be a self-actualized Ken? And I was curious to get, for any of you, if you have thoughts on that and kind of how we're supposed to view Kenergy after the movie.
That's beautifully put. I mean, I didn't really think about Ken's journey because I just don't think about him. But I do think that, you know, he goes through such a human experience, and he's so vulnerable, and that's okay. And he's learned so much, and he only wants to be better, and he just wants to be loved by Barbie, which is admirable. But he becomes kind of his own man in the best way by the end of the movie. So I love that your dad appreciated that journey.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Love you. Yeah, men also suffer under patriarchy, and I feel like that's the point of like that part of the film. There are so many points that the film makes, but like that it's not just women who are denied half of their humanity by these boxes that we place ourselves in. And like for your father to be moved, what's his full name and address? By that is like, yeah, he got it. That's cool.
So cool.
Yeah, I think Ken is confused. He's just, and I don't know if he ever shakes that off. I think that's relatable, though. I think it is confusing. Yeah. Life is confusing. Yeah, I love watching the evolution that he goes through. I don't really know. I don't know that there's a great takeaway for Ken other than just a sort of surrender. Yeah, and to not trying to dominate. Yeah, I love that your father, though, like imagining him as the father of a daughter, you know, had that experience, and especially watching it with you must have been very profound for him.
Yeah, it was cool. We had a great chat afterwards, especially because, like you just said, the film tackles so many different things. But I want to switch over really quickly to Weird Barbie. Were there ever any conversations, even just jokingly, where you're like, can we make Weird Barbie like weirder?
I think it was written pretty weird. She just like handed it to me fully realized, and I was just like, yeah, I'll just say these lines and it'll be weird enough. I mean, there was so much dialogue about every mark and like piece of hair, and everything about the costume was so considered, and that was like so much fun to build. The look, I feel like the look was like the hardest and also the best part.
I kept waiting for like her head to just randomly be somewhere else. I was like, they're just gonna cut back to her. She's not gonna have a head for that
That's
scene.
the R-rated version.
Deleted scenes. But I love that you two kind of pair up. Did you guys talk about that at all? Was the sanitation lines?
I want to see that. I mean, that was one of her brilliantly improvised lines, and it just dark and twisted. But of course, Weird Barbie wants sanitation. I would be proud to have her in my cabinet. I just think that she would liven things up and make them appropriately weird.
That's a sequel we need. And Allan,
Right.
is there room for Allan in your cabinet?
Absolutely, I would love for Allan to be. I would
Culture.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Hi, Barbie.
Oh, hi, Allan. There are no multiples of Allan. He's just Allan.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
Hey.
Oh my God, the backdrop, I love it.
The Kenergy is strong and the Kendome as it should be. Yeah, this is kind of like our take on the Barbie dream house. You know, it's like if Ken's for whatever reason took over a Barbie dream house and then just like exploded Kenergy all over it, this would be what happens. And I'm not sure, you know, everyone can have their own opinion on it. There's a lot of horse symbolism, and I'm not completely sure where that comes from. It's like someone showed the Kens like a statue of an old like colonel mounted on a horse, and they were like, "This is man," and Kens were like, "Okay, yeah."
Your Ken and Ryan Gosling's Ken. There's
Yes.
clearly some baggage between the two of you specifically. Did you and Ryan or you and Greta talk about what went down with them before we meet them? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think we did talk about it quite a bit. It was just the sense of like, and I think she had such a genius take on it, which is that Kens are like boys on a playground. And you know, when boys play with each other and they play these games, and sometimes you don't even know what these games mean or what they are. You just know, you know, for example, girls have cooties, or you play tag. It's like nobody understands why the rules are the way they are, but they're just kind of playing it because everyone else is playing it. And that's kind of, I think, where you find our Kens in the beginning of this movie, is that they're just like weirdly antagonistic toward each other, but no one can quite figure out why. Like, there's just like, oh, you know, my Ken can do this. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but between Ryan and I, one of us can backflip and one of us can't. This becomes a very major plot point in the movie, right? And like the fact that one of them, again, not gonna say who, one of the Kens can backflip makes the other Ken, whoever he may be, really, really jealous, because it's kind of really cool to know how to backflip, especially because it impresses Barbies. And so that just becomes kind of a point of contention among all the Kens, is like, well, how can we all impress the Barbies? Because again, Kens have nothing to do. They have no jobs, and so they really only exist within the gaze of the Barbies in Barbie Land. And so it's just kind of a really disempowered position to be in, and kind of clues you into why there's so much infighting among the Kens.
Yeah, especially if you can't do a backflip.
Especially if you can't. Yeah. Can't imagine what that would be like. God.
Hold my ice cream, Ken. All right, Ken, you're on.
I will beat both of you off at the same time.
But you don't even know how to beat yourself off. How are you going to beat both of
Of
us
course
off? It
I know how
doesn't
to-
make sense.
Ken?
You
Why are
can't
you
even beat
getting
yourself off. You're going to beat both of us off.
Nobody's gonna beat anyone off.
So, okay, I took my dad to the press screening with me, which was really cool because he actually ended up being more moved by the movie than I was, which is not something that I was expecting. And I'm obsessed with the movie. I loved it, but it was just really cool to see him connected with it in that way. And part of it, I think, is because of the Ken storyline. And I know that right now, like, the joke is kind of like, he's just Ken, and like nobody wants to be a Ken. But I think by the end of the movie, that's not necessarily the case. So I was wondering, like, how you would like people to feel about Kens or just Kenergy in general when they're leaving the theater.
That is, that's a really, really great question. You know, there's a lot to There's a lot to make fun of the Kens about, especially in the beginning of the movie. You know, kind of like how you see us in the trailer, making, you know, trying to beach each other off all the time. I think that's it's very indicative of like kind of what the Ken mentality is, and it kind of just comes from the fact that we don't really do anything, and so when we don't have any jobs and we don't have any real purpose, other than to kind of just be an accessory to the Barbies, kind of really feel disempowered. It's a, you know. Is one of the just brilliant kind of ways that Greta turned Barbie Land onto, you know, just flipped, you know, traditional gender stereotypes over on its head and made the Kens like the butt of the joke. And, you know, what you get when you don't have a lot is like Kens start to just compete with each other and get really nasty for no reason. And I think at the end of the movie, you know, I think Kens kind of come face to face with who they are, what they've become, the journey that they've been on, and I think, you know, well, I hope that they come to a similar conclusion that that anyone would in that situation, which is that it's you know, it's always better to stick together and support one another than to tear each other down, and Kenergy doesn't always have to be, you know, aggressive horses, loud, loud music and fur coats. It can come from within, and it comes from a sense of comfort with oneself and a self-confidence that isn't projecting and isn't insecure.